This is Sky News at 10, live from Sydney, as Australia mourns the 15 victims of a terror attack on Bondi Beach. Grief and anger as the Jewish community say the concerns they voiced for their safety were ignored.
I warned, and my friends warned, and community leaders warned, and all of us dual citizens and Israeli citizens over here, we all warned that this is what will happen.
Hailed as a hero by his family, the man who tackled and disarmed one of the Bondi Beach gunmen. We'll have the latest as more details emerge about the horror that unfolded at a Hanukkah celebration and those who lost their lives.
Also ahead tonight on Sky News at 10, Hollywood film director Rob Reiner and his wife are found stabbed to death. Their son, Nick, pictured here on the right, is arrested on suspicion of murder. And Donald Trump launches an astonishing attack on the movie mogul. Tens of thousands of resident doctors will begin a 5-day strike on Wednesday after rejecting the government's latest offer. Facing the rest of his life in prison, Hong Kong pro-democracy campaigner Jimmy Lai is found guilty of national security offences. And we'll take a first look at tomorrow's front pages. That coming up in our press preview from 10:30 through to midnight.
Hello from Sydney, where it's 9 o'clock on Tuesday morning. Australia is still very much in shock after the horrific events on Sunday when two gunmen, a father and a son, opened fire on Bondi Beach, killing 15 people as families gathered to celebrate the start of Hanukkah, the Jewish festival of light. Australia's Prime Minister has promised tougher gun laws, but there's growing anger from the Jewish community here, which feels its security concerns were ignored. Ahead, we'll hear about the man hailed a hero for tackling one of the perpetrators, more detail about the victims, and how the terror attack means the UK's Jewish community is once again contemplating its safety. But our first report tonight comes from our correspondent, Cordelia Lynch.
The grief is raw. The shock deep. And there's flickers of incredulity everywhere. It was the Jewish community that came under siege here in Bondi Beach. But the attack has left everyone bewildered.
I'm meant to be safe. I should be safe. It's our job to protect them, and we failed. We failed to protect them, and I don't have words for that. I don't know what we're supposed to do, but we're meant to protect our weak and our vulnerable. And we didn't do a good job of it. I feel sad about that.
Families who spent the weekend celebrating Hanukkah, a festival of lights, now taking their children to a memorial for the dead. The silence was searing. And so too were the songs.
For we are one and free.
A push to show respect and cohesion. But scratch the surface here, and there's rage.
Set the agenda.
A firm belief one of the deadliest massacres in Australia's history could have been prevented.
Do you think enough is being done to protect Jewish people in Australia?
Absolutely not. I mean, I think given what we've seen and what my friends have been through over the last 24 hours, I had friends whose brains were blown to smithereens. So the answer is no. It almost feels like too little too late because there were so many signs of this. There were so many precursors to this event over the last 2-3 years that have been ignored by the government.
I warned, and my friends warned, and community leaders warned, and all of us dual citizens and Israeli citizens over here, we all warned that this is what will happen.
The Australian Prime Minister was quick to call this an anti-Semitic terrorist attack. But it was tougher gun laws he chose to focus on first.
The government is prepared to take whatever action is necessary. Included in that is the need for tougher gun laws.
But it's the motivation, the mindset of the gunmen many want addressed. What led the two attackers to commit mass murder? 24-year-old Naveed Akram, Australian-born, is now in hospital. His father, 50-year-old Sajid, was killed at the scene.
In this video, you can hear the chaos and fear as people try to take cover. Clinging onto the ground as the shots ring out.
These are some of the 15 victims killed. Among them, a 10-year-old girl and a survivor of the Holocaust. The scale of the loss is still unfolding.
This has been a hugely moving show of solidarity and defiance, but you can also see and feel a rising sense of anger from a community that feels deeply let down and now even more exposed.
It will take something seismic to reassure the Jewish community after years of increasing attacks across Australia. And yet so many here say now is the time to be seen, visible, fearful, but undeterred. Cordelia Lynch, Sky News, Bondi Beach in Sydney.
The parents of a bystander who tackled and disarmed one of the gunmen have described their son as a hero. Ahmed is now recovering in hospital after being shot during the incident. He's a member of Sydney's Muslim community, which has come out and strongly condemned the attack. Sky's Nicole Johnston has more.
This brave man is the hero of the Bondi attack, and everyone's talking about him. His name is Ahmed Al-Ahmed. When the gunman paused, Ahmed tackled him and then grabbed his rifle. It was fast. Ahmed took the gun and pointed it towards the attacker. He raised his hand in the air, but had been shot a number of times. He's now in hospital, stable but critical.
My son has always been brave, helps people, he likes that. He saw they were dying and people were losing their lives. And when that guy ran out of ammunition, he took it from him, but he was hit. We pray that God saves him for us.
I feel pride and honour because my son is a hero of Australia. There isn't a single media agency in the world that hasn't published what he did. All the way to President Trump thanked him for what he did.
Very, very brave person, actually, who went and attacked frontally one of the shooters and saved a lot of lives. So, very brave person who's right now in the hospital, pretty seriously wounded.
Originally from Syria, Mr. Ahmed is now a fruit shop owner with 2 children in Sydney. And this moment of extreme selflessness was applauded by everyone.
True hero, true hero. To be able to stand up to those monsters. I think it was a nice added benefit that he was a Muslim, but I think it's a human being. I don't think right then he thought, I'm saving Jews, I'm not saving Jews. I think he was a human being that went in there and saved people that was there.
When I saw it, I was like, what a hero, what a courageous man. There was no one around him and he just went for it. Like, you didn't see fear in his eyes.
While the world reflects on its latest hero, there is work to be done.
Australia's Christian, Muslim and Jewish leaders have come together and say they won't allow this attack to divide them or for the seeds of hate to grow. But Muslim leaders have also told us that they fear the next few weeks could be a challenge to stop tension from rising within their communities.
The trauma from this attack will take years to heal. Bondi has been touched by terrorism, and it's unlikely to ever be the same. Nicole Johnston, Sky News, Sydney.
Well, those killed in the terror attack are still being identified, but let's take a look at what we know so far. 15 people were killed by the two alleged gunmen. The oldest victim has been named as 87-year-old Alexander Kleitman, a Holocaust survivor who came to Australia from Ukraine. Peter Meager was working as a freelance photographer at the Hanukkah event. He was a retired policeman, having served almost 4 decades in the New South Wales police force. 82-year-old Slovakian Marika Pogany was killed. She has been described as an avid volunteer and a member of Sydney's Harbourview Bridge Club. 78-year-old Tibor Whiteson also died during the attack. He's been described as someone who brought joy and smiles to everyone. There are reports that he was fatally wounded while shielding his wife from the gunfire. She survived. Well, the British-born rabbi who was killed in the Sydney attack has been described by a close family friend in the UK as vivacious and energetic and committed to bringing out good in the world. Our communities correspondent Lisa Holland reports from Golders Green in North London.
As Jewish communities pledge to continue with their Hanukkah traditions celebrating the Festival of Light, London Rabbi Bentzi Sudak paid tribute to his close family friend killed in the Sydney attack. This was Rabbi Eli Schlanger celebrating Hanukkah a year ago. He grew up in North London before moving to New York, then Sydney. Those who knew him say he was committed to bringing out good in the world.
Always energetic, always doing exceptional good work, and never satisfied with the status quo. Always adding, always creatively thinking of new ideas to empower other people, to do good in different ways. Always proud of what he's doing, always excited.
What good do you think Rabbi Schlanger would want to come of his death?
His biggest dream would be that if everyone who sees this, and ultimately the entire world, would step up and choose to be the ambassador of light in their corner of the world.
Central London lit up with a vigil for those who died on the other side of the world, mourning not the lives of strangers, but members of the same global community. In Manchester, which saw a terror attack on the Jewish holiday of Yom Kippur in October, plans to celebrate the second day of Hanukkah turned to remembrance. Sydney's pain is theirs too.
Just last night, my wife was on the phone to a cousin of mine and his wife who live in Sydney, just to check up, how are you doing, only to discover that they were there on the scene for 15 terrifying minutes. They were hiding under a donut stand, while people to their right and their left were being mowed down in cold blood.
Donuts are a food traditionally eaten at this time of year for those celebrating Hanukkah. At a bakery in North London, we found a quiet resilience not to be cowed in the face of terror.
What impact do you think it will have on the Hanukkah celebrations in the UK?
People are scared. People are more worried and more cautious. People are not going to stop living. Life carries on. You have no choice but to carry on. What else are you going to do? Sit at home and be scared? Fear doesn't help.
We met Joe Merchant, who grew up attending the Manchester synagogue, which came under attack, and was also married there. This latest act of terror weighs heavy.
Just a darkness, and this Festival of Light, when we're supposed to be celebrating, it just feels that we're in a situation that's just dark. And it's terribly sad.
In the Jewish community, they say that feeling of looking over their shoulder never really goes away. Now, another religious festival is upon them, overshadowed by hatred and violence. Lisa Holland, Sky News, North London.
Well, our correspondent Cordelia Lynch is here with me now. Cordelia, it's so quiet here, isn't it? These flowers growing by the minute, people continually coming, and it's actually rather a lovely tribute.
It really is very moving to be here, and we've seen this steady procession of people late into the night, last night and again this morning too, and you're really struck by the range of people from across the community here in Sydney and broader Australia too. Lots of children here who were there sadly at the time of the attack too, obviously witnessing some horrifying things and their parents bringing them here to pay their respects. I think there is a sense of solidarity. There is also that bubbling anger, the demand for answers, the questions about whether this could have been prevented in some way. Yes, there's been a focus politically on tougher gun controls, but as you know, they are already very tough here compared to other countries in the world. And so I think there's going to be soul searching at the national level and some pressing questions to the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese.
And questions too about these two gunmen, the father and son. We are learning more by the hour, aren't we?
That's right. The alleged gunmen, Sajid and Naveed Akram, a father and son. Now, we have come to learn that Naveed was being investigated back in 2019. That's when he first became aware, the authorities first became aware of him. Now, Anthony Albanese has said there is no evidence that he was connected, nor his father, to a specific terror cell. That's despite reports that the two men had pledged allegiance to ISIS. Now, we understand that both men in the weeks before this mass shooting had travelled to Mindanao, an island in the Philippines, known as a hotbed for extremism. There is investigations now as to whether that played any contributing role to a hardening of their attitudes and mindset or not. Back in 2019, it was determined that Naveed did not represent any ongoing threat, that there was no evidence of a specific plan to carry out an anti-Semitic attack. But I think nevertheless, people are going to want to know more. What was it in the days and the weeks leading up to this attack that led to such horror in an area so popular with tourists, so iconic to the people of Australia and the wider world as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Cordelia, thank you very much. We're also thinking of those in hospital, of course, still in hospital, 25 people, 10 of those in a critical or stable condition. So as the sun set here in Bondi on Sunday and those shots rang out, people ran for cover, hiding under picnic tables, running from the beach barefoot. Today here it is much calmer, of course, as those flowers are brought and some hymns are being sung over to my left. It may be calm, but those questions that Cordelia mentioned still continue. Questions about gun laws here in Australia, questions about what was known about these two men, and also questions about tackling anti-Semitism in a country that's known for its tolerance. Anna.
Jonathan, thank you very much indeed, bringing us the latest there from Sydney. So let's bring you more news of today, and there have been extraordinary developments concerning the stabbing to death of the film director Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle at their home in Los Angeles. The couple's son Nick has been arrested on suspicion of their murders. And a little earlier, President Trump launched an attack on Reiner, seemingly making up a disease he said he'd suffered from, which he called Trump derangement syndrome. A warning: this report from our US correspondent Martha Kellner contains some flash photography.
Rob and Michelle Reiner's home is dressed for Christmas. Wreaths on the gate and giant baubles on the tree. No hint of the horror that unfolded inside here. Reiner, one of Hollywood's most acclaimed film directors, and photographer wife Michelle found stabbed to death. The man arrested for murder is their son Nick, pictured here between the couple. And in the back of this family photo, aged 32, he'd struggled with drug addiction and mental health issues.
We have our robbery homicide division handling the investigation. They worked throughout the night on this case and were able to take into custody Nick Reiner, a suspect in this case. He was subsequently booked for murder.
What are you doing?
Reiner acted in sitcoms and films, but was best known as a director.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
The vision behind iconic hits like A Few Good Men
Just have an early meeting.
and When Harry Met Sally.
You don't play squash.
It was while filming When Harry Met Sally that Rob met the woman who would become his wife. Their love affair persuaded him to change the story, so the two main characters would end up together.
At the end of the movie, we had it where they run into each other in the street, they talk, and then they walk in opposite directions. The camera pulls up. And then I meet the woman who I've now been married to for 36 years, Michelle, and we fall in love during the making of the movie.
Reiner was a Democratic Party activist and vocal critic of President Donald Trump. In response to Reiner's death, Trump posted this on social media. He said Reiner had died because of the anger he caused others and that he had a mind-crippling disease known as Trump derangement syndrome, sometimes referred to as TDS, adding that Reiner had a raging obsession of President Donald J. Trump.
Even in the current administration, where normal codes of conduct and standards of decency that you'd expect from a president no longer apply, there is disgust here that the nightmare that unfolded in this House could be exploited to make political statements.
What a tragedy. It's such a tragedy. I'm sick.
I don't know whether you've seen the President's post this morning on...
I have not. No.
He said that he died due to Trump derangement syndrome.
Leave it to our president. I mean, what a stupid thing to say. I'm not surprised. It's disgusting, though.
Was a very good man, very liberal. I liked his ideas, especially when he was talking against the new regime in America. Donald Trump is not a human being. He doesn't have any blood in his vein.
The Reiner's murder has been described as a Greek tragedy. A man who brought such joy with his art, whose movies will live on. His own life ended in the cruelest way imaginable.
Well, Martha joins us live now, and new details emerging in the past few minutes, Martha, about how Rob Reiner's son had accompanied his parents to a party and what his behaviour was like there.
Yeah, we're building up a picture now, Anna, of what the Reiners were doing in the hours before they were killed. We know, courtesy of our colleagues at NBC News, that they had attended a Christmas party which was being thrown by the very well-known comedian and talk show host Conan O'Brien. That was on Saturday night, so just a matter of hours before they were found stabbed to death in this home. We know they attended that party together with Nick, their 32-year-old son, and sources have told NBC that Nick's behaviour was erratic during that party. They said he was disruptive and interrupting conversations on a regular basis, and apparently his parents had expressed worries about Nick's health. At one point during that party, he interrupted a conversation that the actor and comedian Bill Hader was having with two other guests. Apparently Mr. Hader told Nick that it was a private conversation, and Nick reacted by standing and staring and then storming off. So all of that happened apparently just hours before they were killed inside their home here, a home which apparently their son Nick was living with them in on and off occasionally. Nick's struggles with drug addiction and mental health issues are well publicised. Both he and his parents have spoken about those issues in the past. But what an enormous tragedy, and a tragedy which has now been politicised.
Absolutely. Martha, thank you very much indeed, live for us in LA. Now, Donald Trump says he intends to file his lawsuit against the BBC, accusing the corporation of defamation. The US president says his lawyers are preparing to file court papers in Florida today or tomorrow over an edited speech in a Panorama documentary, which made it appear that he had encouraged the Capitol Hill riot.
In a little while, you'll be seeing I'm suing the BBC for putting words in my mouth. Literally, they put words in my mouth. They had me saying things that I never said coming out. I guess they used AI or something. So we'll be bringing that lawsuit.
Well, let's bring in our US correspondent, James Matthews. Looks like he's going ahead, James.
Yeah, it does indeed, Anna. Good evening. This relates, of course, to this BBC Panorama broadcast around the January 6th riots. The programme makers, they edited a Trump speech, which he gave on the National Mall. The BBC has conceded that it gave the impression, this edit, the way it was treated, that Donald Trump was making a call for violent action. Now, the BBC, it's apologised, and you'll remember its Director General and new CEO, they've since resigned, but the corporation has said no to Donald Trump's demand for compensation. He had threatened to sue the BBC for between $1 billion and $5 billion. That action, on the basis of his words there, now appears to be imminent. He was actually hosting a news conference about something entirely different, Anna, when he said, unprompted, that we will be filing it soon, probably this afternoon, as you heard, or tomorrow morning. It had gone quiet on the BBC front inside the White House, but the matter clearly hasn't gone away for President Trump. It's a very difficult one for the corporation, who would appear to have something of a fight on its hands, the prospect of a very costly legal battle in the Florida courts, with a president who is litigious. And don't forget, he's already pursued ABC and CBS on this side of the Atlantic and taken them for several million each.
We'll keep an eye out for that filing, certainly. James, thank you. 4 people have been charged with plotting New Year's Eve bomb attacks in California. Federal authorities in the US said they are allegedly part of an extremist group which is suspected of planning the attacks.
This anti-government group traveled out to the desert to test their explosive devices. Watching is from our surveillance plane, and then what happened after this is the Los Angeles FBI SWAT team, along with the FBI's hostage rescue team, moved in and arrested all 4 subjects without incident.
Well, back here, and strikes by resident doctors in England will go ahead as planned from Wednesday this week, after members of the British Medical Association rejected a new offer from the government to end the long-running pay and jobs dispute. It comes after NHS England said it was facing the worst case scenario after flu cases rose by more than 55% in a week. The offer from the government included a fast expansion of specialist training posts, as well as covering out-of-pocket expenses, such as exam fees, but it did not include extra pay. The Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, has called the strike self-indulgent, irresponsible and dangerous. The head of Britain's armed forces has warned that the UK needs to be ready to fight Russia. Air Chief Marshal Sir Richard Knighton warned that Russia's military strength is increasing and said families and households in the UK need to be prepared for a war and prepared for sacrifices.
Perhaps the most obvious impact on all of us will be the cost of building this resilience. Sons and daughters, colleagues, veterans will all have a part to play, to build, to serve, and if necessary, to fight. And more families will know what sacrifice for our nation means.
The pro-democracy campaigner Jimmy Lai has been found guilty of national security offences in Hong Kong. The 78-year-old media tycoon is a British citizen. He was arrested in 2020 after China imposed a national security law following massive anti-government protests in Hong Kong. Now, the German Chancellor says he believes a ceasefire in Ukraine is in sight for the first time since the start of the war. Friedrich Merz was speaking after hosting Ukrainian, European and US representatives for the latest round of peace talks in Berlin. But let's bring in our Europe correspondent, Siobhan Robbins, and an interestingly optimistic tone from the German Chancellor, Siobhan, when there still seems to be intractable obstacles like land, for example.
That's exactly it. The tone all day has been more positive. But as you say, interestingly, in the last few minutes, we've just heard from President Zelensky, who said there is still no ideal peace plan. The current plan is basically a work in progress, and he wants the US to move quickly towards peace. I think that said, no, we aren't at the point of peace, but there does, if you listen to the mood music coming from the US, the Europeans and Ukraine, there does seem to have been big steps forward. If we quickly run through what has changed or what seems to have improved, one of the big ones, relationships. A few days ago, Donald Trump was saying he wasn't even sure if he was going to send his envoys here. He didn't know if there was a point. Clearly, they worked out there was a point, and there has been progress. And one of the big points that there's been progress on appears to be these security guarantees. When President Zelensky was heading to Berlin, he suggested that he might give up his long-term aim or postpone his long-term aim of NATO membership in exchange for security guarantees. And today we've heard that the US is willing to offer those guarantees, a bit like Article 5 guarantees you see under NATO. But we understand from President Zelensky that would still need to go before Congress. But for the first time in what feels like a long time, the Ukrainians and Europeans seem to be much closer in position to where the US was. Just cast your mind back a few weeks when we got that 28-point peace plan, which some said was so pro-Russian they believed it was written by the Kremlin, despite US denials. We seem to have moved away from that. So they're the positives. I think the negatives, and as you say, the big stumbling blocks continue to be territorial issues. And the US has said this has to be worked out by the parties involved. But Zelensky said today, these are painful talks. And there's a lot to do on that. And I think the other big stumbling block, of course, is personalities. Donald Trump could be Team Europe today. Tomorrow he could be back Team Moscow. And then, of course, there is Russia to contend with. Do they actually want peace? Their critics say no. And if that's the case, then we'll never get a peace plan in the next few weeks.
Siobhan, thank you. Sir Cliff Richard has revealed he's been treated for prostate cancer for the past year. The 85-year-old singer said his disease was discovered after going for a medical checkup ahead of an overseas tour. Sir Cliff says his cancer has gone at the moment and is backing calls for a national screening test for men.
I don't know whether it's going to come back. We can't tell those sort of things, but we need to absolutely, I'm convinced, get there, get tested, get checked. I think we as men have got to start saying we've got to be seen as human beings who may die of this thing.
Sir Cliff Richard there. Well, that was Sky News at 10. Coming up, we'll take a first look at tomorrow's newspapers in the press preview. Tonight, joined by the Daily Mirror columnist, Kevin Maguire, and the Daily Mail's Whitehall editor, Claire Ellicott. Lovely to see you both. And among the stories we'll be discussing, this on the front page of The Times. The headline then, doctors strike despite flu fears. That and plenty more of the day's stories in just a moment.